Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in. I have the honor of being here with Natalie for another story of hope. And I'll let Natalie share, most of her story, but I want to point out that, this is an autoimmune case that came on, I think, secondary to having your first two children, but that Natalie really dug in. She read Body Belief. She did one coaching session with my team and then kind of took all that information and everything I have online for free and continued to follow her protocol and eventually got to her third baby after how many years of trying in between baby number 2 and baby number 3?
4 or 5 years.
And so go ahead, tell everybody, because the first two pregnancies were you were in your late 20s, right? And they were fairly.
I had one at 31 and one at 32.
Okay.
Wanted the third one at 33.
Yeah, of course.
But it never happened. So first two got pregnant, first time, no issues. Everything went fine, no issues during pregnancy. And then with the third one, it just wasn't happening. So after 3 months, I went to my doctor and I said, I know you're supposed to wait a little longer, but something's up. So he did an ultrasound and I found out that I had polyps in my uterus and that I was diagnosed with PCOS. So I'd never even heard of it, didn't know what it was. So then I went down the rabbit hole on Google. The doctor had offered, the typical birth control or, some other pill that they can give you. And that wasn't really something that I wanted to do. So got the polyps removed. I did do one round of, I don't know what hormone it is, but it's I think one pill that you have to take.
Clomid, yeah, to induce ovulation, probably.
Yeah. And, okay, I don't love the idea, but whatever. It's 1 or 2 pills, something like that. I'll try it once. I ended up getting pregnant, but obviously I miscarried. Obviously my eggs weren't, I don't think, with a great quality.
Ready. Okay. And how far along were you for that miscarriage?
6 weeks.
That's still hard. Yeah. Hard no matter what. Yeah.
So yeah, and it was the first one. So I feel like the first one, I didn't know what to expect. I didn't know, I'd never been through that before. So it was hard. I ended up having a second one later on, which I feel it was a little bit easier. So I went on that one round, got pregnant, didn't work. Had to have I don't know what it's called, but the procedure done where they like a DNC, because it didn't all get rid of itself. So I had to go get that scraped. 6 months later, still wasn't pregnant. Painful periods came back. I was so stressed out. And so it was my mental state, and the polyps grew back again in my uterus. And the doctor said he'd never seen them grow back so fast and so large. So I had yet a third surgery to get removed. And I was like, that's when I was like, okay, something has to change. Clearly something's going on. So that led me to you. So I started following you on Instagram and just, go back and looked at your videos. I signed up for some of the free stuff that you offer. I think you do meditations and you do some recipes, and you do a lot of free stuff, which is actually really nice. So I just kind of started with that. And I was like, okay, well, the diet thing is very difficult. And my husband is from Italy and he's a chef. So I feel like food is a very big, and pasta and gluten and all those things are a big staple in our house. So it's like, okay, I'm not really ready for that there. So I bought your Body Belief book, started listening to the audio version. I was like, oh no, this is too good. I need the actual version so I can highlight and underline. I need to go back to this, open it up and refer to this or to that. So in one of them, I think you even said, I put Post-it notes around the house. So on my mirror, and in Body Belief, you say, put your hand on your heart, look at yourself in the mirror, say, I love you, I forgive you, all this stuff. And it sounds crazy and it sounds so easy. Okay, I can do this. Well, I don't know if you guys have ever done it, but when you look at yourself in the mirror and you put your hand on your heart, it's hard to do. And it's this weird feeling.
Right, too. It's so emotional.
Oh, she's onto something. So I started putting little Post-it reminders and things like this on the mirrors in the house when I get ready, and just, I can brush my teeth and do these little things. So it's just small little things that you had recommended. Then finally during COVID, I said, I did your recommendation of all my beauty products, my shampoos.
Right. You were saying that before we went on. Yeah. You changed all that.
Changed all of that because I figured that was something that was easier to do. I was like, let me start small. You know, Rome wasn't built in a day. Let me do the smaller things. This one seems a little bit easier. And you recommended I think the Think Dirty app.
Yeah.
And that was helpful to start. That has issues too, like anything. Nothing's perfect, but it was a really good place to start. Ended up buying your little starter kit. I think it's like $7, $10, something like that. So it's like, let me try her beauty products, you know, because she makes them herself. They're obviously going to be good. Loved those products. So ended up buying them. I've ended up buying a ton for my friends as well to help give them like the push to get started. So I started with that, just laundry detergent, literally changed everything in the house, and basically kind of, if you can't eat it, then it shouldn't go on my body, shouldn't go.
Right. Yeah. So you started really detoxing, and then, but you said PCOS, but your periods were normal, right? Periods were always normal. And then at what point did you find the thyroid antibodies? Not yet. You get body belief, and then that's when
and you talk about that and the proper blood work, and to get the initials, the MTHFR.
Yeah.
So I got that done, and I do of course have the mutation. So got the thyroid antibodies, because if you look at my thyroid panel, it's perfect. So every year when I would go for my physical, all my numbers were perfect. The doctors would always compliment me. Oh, your numbers are amazing. Everything, you know, right in the middle, nothing's high, nothing's low. So finally I went back, did my thyroid antibodies, and they were there. And so now my doctor's great. Every 6 months, I get tested, and I do the full panel just to keep on top of it, to make sure things don't progressively get worse.
Okay.
So figured all that stuff out. So then that's nice too, because once you figure that out, then there's power in knowing. So then I now have also a numerical something where I can actually see, okay, is this getting better? Is this getting worse? What's going on?
Yeah.
So that's very nice, very powerful. Then COVID happened, and I figured I had a little bit more free time. So I did one coaching session with one of your coaches. That was amazing. And I kind of was hesitant to do it, because I'm like, she's just going to tell me everything that I can't do, everything that I can't eat. And I'm just going to get annoyed. And so I was kind of hesitant to do it. And then I did a coaching session, and it was with Michelle, and she was absolutely amazing. And she never once told me, you can't eat that, you shouldn't eat that, never made me feel judged, because my one, like, everyone has like their thing. My thing is soda. I know I've given it up before. Everyone says once you give it up, you don't like it anymore. Soda is my thing. I love it. She didn't even tell me to give up the soda. And that's like one of the worst things. She encouraged me to keep a food diary, which was so interesting, because I loved it, because it was basically her way of forcing me to look at myself. So she never said.
We do it all the time.
Yeah.
And I think I always say too, of like, it's really like accountability, and we really try to focus on, instead of what we need to remove, what we should add. And then a lot of times when we talk about what to add, it's hard to fit everything in. So certain things get removed without us even really thinking about it. Right. But the food diary too, it really tunes you in. You're like, oh, every time I eat that, then this happens. So then it becomes like your choice, you know?
Exactly. So I'm allergic to soy, and I've known that since I was young. But I never really paid attention. Soy is in absolute everything. And so keeping the food diary, I was like, oh, I noticed that I, get really gassy if I eat soy, or I get headaches if I eat soy. And so all of a sudden I'm like, you know what? I don't want headaches. Headaches aren't fun. So it just forced me to really keeping the food diary, because before I would just assume like, oh, everyone, you just get headaches from time to time. I had 2 small kids, 16 months apart. I'm a stay-at-home mom. Things were busy. I was tired running around. So you just assume, well, it's because of that.
Yep.
So
I want to pull up your red flags when you came to us were hair loss, acne, fatigue, weight gain, strong appetite, gas, back pain, muscle pain, rib, flank pain, which was interesting. And let's see. and heavy periods. And then you were tired and discomfort on your first day too. So you had a good amount of like red flag symptoms, I would say, when you first came to us. Yeah.
Yes. Using your beauty products changed my skin, that like I'd say 80%. The other
Was
20
the rest of all the lifestyle changes, I'm sure, like getting rid of all the toxins. Yeah.
Exactly. And I, would always like, God, I'm in my 30s. Why am I still suffering from acne? This is supposed to be a thing that, you have in your teenage years. What's going on? And then I started even getting like wrinkles on my forehead. I'm like, I never wanted to do Botox, but I was strongly considering it just because I'm like, I'm too young to have these big wrinkles on my forehead. It's so crazy because when I look back at a picture of me in my early 30s, I look younger now and have better skin now at 38 than I did at 32, 33.
Wow. Wow. Amazing. Amazing.
Yeah. And I started doing gua sha on my face and just all of these.
Those things. And then so Michelle has you do a food diary. I'm trying to look at the follow-up notes too of like
Yes. So that
gluten-free, dairy-free, soy-free. We talked about enzyme. We did some Chinese herbs. Have you eat regularly and enough protein, do castor oil packs. We shifted supplements a little, right? Is that stuff you remember? Yeah.
Yes, so worked with Michelle, got on all, still haven't changed the diet at this point. Did the food diary to really make me, notice, got on all the supplements, still taking a lot of them today, still on, the cod liver oil, the liver, the beef liver. Really nice for you to give them to me, to the brands, because if you just Google it, you can end up taking a supplement that you think is helping you, but it actually is doing more harm than good.
Mm-hmm.
It was really nice just to have your direction, because I was like, okay, she's already vetted them. She already knows which ones are good, which ones aren't. So that was just nice to be able to just go and get them all and start taking them, and just, it really helped. I was on one for inflammation that helped. And then I also really noticed is once you detox, you notice that when you eat those things, so like still to this day, when I eat, gluten or sugar, because I am by no means perfect, my lower back just will be super achy. So also those things, just things that you take for granted that you don't think, I don't have a gluten intolerance. I'm not allergic to it. I don't have any issues with it. But you just start to notice these small things like, oh, wow, first time you think it's a coincidence, second time, then you realize, no, every time I eat gluten, I have.
But that's it too. And it becomes the choice of like, okay, I'm going to do it. And I know I'm going to have back pain tomorrow, or I'm going to have diarrhea, or I'm going to get a headache, but it's like these one-offs, because we're not perfect. And I think too, like, as they hear the story too, of like, you weren't absolutely perfect and you still got to this baby, right? So you still made it happen.
Yes, you also encourage, you talk a lot about in the Body Belief book about, it's not just that's one aspect of it, but the huge one that nobody really talks about is the mental side. Everything that's going on up here. And so we're our own worst enemies. So that led me to start doing like more, like manifestation things. And I worked with a Reiki specialist, because after my first 2 pregnancies, I developed anxiety, which is something that I never had. And so I then was able to, pushed to do all those things. So then I reached out to other people locally here, because I'm in California and you're all the way in New York. So I couldn't go to you for acupuncture or go to you for these things, but I found, great acupuncturists here, great people here that you encouraged along the way. So I think all of these things, really
time. Yeah. And then, so you eventually, how much longer then until you get pregnant, after you kind of like, you meet with Michelle and you incorporate the things? Because I think your meeting with her was, let me tell you the exact date, 8/26/2020.
Okay. Yeah. I got pregnant in 2022. So in that time, so everything was, I wasn't it wasn't from one day to the next. Rome wasn't built in a day, everything. So worked with Michelle, started on the supplements, probably, I don't think I really started doing the diet like good until about a year later. I think in January 2021, you know, when everyone makes their, you know, and I'm not a fan of New Year's resolutions, but there was somebody else that I knew and they were doing like, hey, let's get a group of people together. We're going to eat gluten-free, dairy-free, sugar-free. Let's do all this. We'll keep each other accountable. We'll do it. So I was like, okay, fine, I'll do it. My God, it was amazing and life-changing, but it didn't happen until a year after, I guess not a year, maybe 5 months after I worked.
5 months. It wasn't a year, right? Because it was August to January.
Yeah. So, you know, a few months later, and then I did that. So everything was just kind of in small, you know, small little increments. So then I did that. And then I had another friend who has the same exact issues as me. And she's from Italy. And her doctor had given her these other 2 supplements, which I'd never heard of. And I'm, even before I had met with you, I was big on taking, you know, like all natural, you know, supplements because our diet just isn't enough. So I considered myself pretty knowledgeable already. And I'd never heard of CoQ10. And she had said that her doctor had put her on CoQ10 and then on Inositol, like a specific kind of Inositol. And you hadn't put those on my list. And I said, you know what? What's it going to hurt?
Yeah.
I started taking the CoQ10 and the Inositol, and that's when I got pregnant again for the second time. Unfortunately, once again, my egg quality just wasn't up to par. So I miscarried again at 7 weeks. But I said, okay, you know what? That one was all on my own. Like I didn't, and it wasn't from the doctor. So that kind of gave me the push to really get out to it. And so then I think that was like the final. So I was like, okay, let me do this clean diet, do the diet, do it really well, lost a ton of weight, which it's nearly impossible for me to lose weight. If I eat healthy, do exercise, I'd maybe, if I was lucky, lose a pound. And then I'd gain it as soon as, you know, I had like a cheat day or something, I'd gain that back plus a little bit more. I think doing the gluten-free, sugar-free, dairy-free, just way of eating and eating protein in the morning. It was no fruit even in the morning, no fruit until at least lunch, lunch and dinner. I lost 10 pounds in the first week.
Wow.
That also was like a big eye opener. Like, okay, my body's holding
on. And that's
on
water weight. Like that's 100% inflammation and swelling as a result of, And then that's what you dropped. Cause it's like, that's not pounds. I mean, sure, that was probably inches. And I mean, muscle, it's not, you know, but it's like your body was just swollen basically.
But swollen anymore. I just lost all of I wasn't puffy.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And then, okay. And so, I mean, we like inositol a lot for PCOS, but I wonder if that wasn't in the mix for you, whatever, in 2020, maybe it just wasn't on our radar at that point. I don't even know. But I'm glad you put those in because I think they're both really good supplements. And so then what was it? Another 6 months. And then you got pregnant again.
Yep. Exactly.
That one home.
And I didn't expect to be pregnant at all. Wasn't trying anymore at this point. I was like, oh, too much time has passed. I don't want to start all over again with the baby. You know, I had kind of almost given up. Okay, because I tried and then still nothing had happened after I really did the clean diet and I really did everything. And I was like, okay, I think that I just have to accept the fact that I'm not going to get the third one. We'll see. And then I'm like 2 weeks late for my period. All of my hair is falling out. Like I went to a wig store. That's how bad it had gotten. I went to the doctor and also got blood tests. I'm like, something must have taken a turn for the worse with my PCOS and my thyroid. Something's going on. Never in my mind did it occur to me I was actually pregnant. And then finally I'm like, let me just take a pregnancy test. Like I have them. Let me just take one and see. And it said pregnant. I was like, that's interesting. And then I just assumed, okay, it's probably going to end in a miscarriage like the previous 2. Let me not get too excited. And then went to the doctor, you know, for my first ultrasound. There was a heartbeat. Everything looked fine. And still, okay, let's not get too excited yet. You know, we're still, And then everything just
Aw.
kept going well. Have a little boy. The first two were girls, and I got a little boy.
Aw. And he's 10 months old now? Is that what you said? Yeah.
Yeah, he's 10 months old now. So healthy, still healthy, great pregnancy, never had diabetes, which I was, really prone
Worried
to.
with the PCOS, yeah. Did you
Uh,
stay on the inositol through the pregnancy or did you stop it?
I stayed on it.
Yeah, that probably could have helped. That
Yes,
to really help with the blood sugar. Yeah.
exactly. And it was one of the few things you can take because when you're pregnant, any supplement that you have, it's like, don't take if you're pregnant or nursing or consult with your doctor. But if you consult with your doctor, they have no idea what you're talking about. They'll Google it like I can Google it. And then they'll say, oh, no, well, you probably shouldn't. So it's really tough to figure out what supplements you can continue to take and which ones you can't.
Yeah. Wow. Wow. And so now on the other side, still kind of living the lifestyle because it's what feels best for your body, right?
I try to, and I'm kind of, I'll fall off the wagon for a little while and then I'll get back on, then I fall off. And, this is probably going to be a lifelong, or who knows, maybe one day I'll finally get sick of it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's still, so I'm not perfect. And I always, when you would see the people, cause I've watched your story of hopes before, and you would always see the people and you would always saying, well, that's them. Good for them. They have a lot of, willpower. I don't have that willpower. Or, we tell ourselves all these stories. But at the end of the day, I did it still not being perfect. So I guess if I
Well, I
want
think
to,
slow and steady really does win the race in a sense. And it's like, and like that 80-20 rule over time makes a significant difference, that's it. Yeah.
exactly, started, just I think even eating all organic and just these small little things where my body's not constantly being bombarded with chemicals and things that are bad. That still helps support it. So even
100%.
if I'm getting pasta, the vegetables I'm eating with the pasta are all organic and the pasta I'm eating is organic. So, even though it's not 100%, it's still a lot better than what I was doing before. And, there's the list of things where like the dirty dozen of things. I don't know if gluten is on the dirty dozen because it's technically not like a vegetable.
Yeah, but it should be. It's so loaded with pesticides. Yeah.
Yeah, gluten should be the number one thing. If anything you do is organic, gluten, gluten, gluten.
Coffee and gluten are two of the biggest pesticide loads, like two of the biggest. And
Yes.
then wine is a huge one too with glyphosate. So going organic with your wine, I think, like if you drink, and I'm not saying, I also, perfection doesn't equal pregnancy in my opinion. And so I think we're all allowed to have a little alcohol if that's what we enjoy and it doesn't feel, unhealthy. But seriously, the pesticide load in those three things it's tremendous. And so, yeah, going organic a lot of times, and for a lot of people, myself included, I feel like half the time I have a pesticide reaction, not necessarily a gluten reaction, because if I'm in another country like Italy, or if I'm at a place where they make homemade pasta and they get their starter dough from outside the US, I digest it better. Very fascinating.
Yes, that's another thing that's interesting is I wish, there was something that we could do because our food here is just so between all those things and the chemicals that we put in our food and the food coloring and just trying to battle it out with my kids, even because obviously I want them to do it, but they go to school or they go to a birthday party and there's all this stuff just filled with chemicals. And I'm the bad guy if I'm like, no, you can't eat that. So it's like we try to live, and it's same thing, 80-20 rule. Fine. We're at a birthday party. Now's the time. But it's just really sad that in our country, we don't have better options. Things that aren't even allowed in other countries like Italy and England and all over Europe, things that are against the law to put in our soaps, our food. It's literally against the law. And the US is like, oh, sure, put it in there.
Oh, and I wonder why all these autoimmune diseases are on the rise and why infertility is on the rise and cancer is on the rise. Yeah, I know. Believe me, I know. We were watching some show last night. What's it called? Rabbit Hole with Kiefer Sutherland. And anyway, his dad in the show is like a kookaloo conspiracy theorist, and he goes on this whole tangent about the soil in America and the food sources and grains, and my husband just looks at me and just starts laughing. I was like, that is me. Like I am that crazy person sometimes. Like I'm like, and then there's this, and then that. People are like, oh my God, they get scared, but we try not to do that to our coaching clients. But
Yes,
I agree. The
you
more
guys,
you read and the more research you do, it just starts to hit you where you're like, this is actually, it's so upsetting that this is the current state of affairs. And then the solution for the current state is, oh, all these meds, you know what I mean? And then, oh, you need fertility treatments. And not that I'm against Western medicine at all, but when we look at it all, it's like there's a lot of other ways we could solve for these problems. Yeah.
yeah, not
Or
balanced.
do an integrative approach. And I think we get there faster. But
Yes.
you had definitely like the slow and steady and the patient approach, which I think is really nice where and then also that little bit of that surrender piece where you're like, maybe I'm okay, maybe life is complete enough. And then the little one comes through. And I love that, it's like, and that's the truth too. And maybe you've gone there, I'm sure you have spiritually, of like they come through when it's the right time for them and your family.
Yep, exactly.
And you probably see that in them of like, oh yeah, this is the perfect time, Yeah.
I get to enjoy it because I'm a little bit older. I'm a little bit wiser, I like to think. So it's different. So, everything in its own time. I know that us as humans, we like to feel like we're in control, or we like to plan things. But this is just a very good life lesson about we can't. These things aren't. Yeah.
Well, and you put yourself as the priority, right? I want to feel good. I want to take care of my health. These things are going on. And that's like not an easy shift, but I think that is a really important one though, too, of like, how can I nourish me and support me and prepare? And if the baby's meant to come through and when, I'm just ready.
Oh, this just reminded me another thing that I did that I thought was really beneficial, that I physically felt like an immediate response to is when I was reading Body Belief, I would just go and like underline all the things that really resonated with me or things that I felt. And then you talk about journaling. So I started my own journal, but the journal was with some of like the quotes or the phrases in your book that I really liked. And I just literally went to Target, bought like a $2 small little binder, and I would write like a sentence at the top of the page. And then I was like, okay, what's the next quote that I like? And I would just write the one sentence. And then as I would daily journal, if I didn't feel like writing something, making up what I was feeling. A lot of us use, me included, we use food as a reward system. And I think it was you that had said, food isn't a reward. Food is like for nourishment. We should eat to nourish our bodies. So that was like one of the phrases I wrote at the top. And so I would just write, until there was no more room on the page, food is not a reward. It's like food is nourishment. Food is not a reward. It's nourishment.
I love that.
All these little things, that I had underlined in your Body Belief book, I turned that into my journaling, because I'm like, I need to see this and hear it and look at it and write it more specifically. And then you also talk about, I didn't know where to start. And oftentimes when I meditate, I have the monkey mind where it just starts like swinging around from thought to thought to thought, and I can't calm it. You talk about in the book, just set a timer on your phone for 3 minutes and just do deep breaths for 3 minutes. So I would do that. I'd go sit like by a window, in the sun, and just timer for 3 minutes. And at first, like that 3 minutes feels like an eternity, but then it gets to be 3 minutes. And I would just
easier.
So much calmer after 3 minutes. And everyone, we think we're so busy that we don't have time for this, but everyone has 3 minutes.
Even if I said this in my first book, even if you just sit on the toilet for 3 minutes longer when you go to the bathroom, you know what I mean? Like, you can do that. No one's going to disturb you because they all think you're doing your business, but like you can take the 3 minutes and just take some deep breaths.
Exactly. And so that's those two small things were also made huge differences and really helped on the journey.
I love it. Oh, thank you so much, Natalie. So any last words of wisdom? I mean, I feel like you gave so many good pieces of advice that are so relatable to so many. But anything else you want to share?
No.
Yeah.
Do it. Take the leap. Like you had said, I only did one coaching session. So for people who feel that this isn't, maybe they don't have the resources, save up money and do at least 1 session, 2 sessions, whatever it is, just that one session was life-changing for me and gave me so many tools and things to work with. So if you're doubting, just do it. Don't think about it.
Thank you so much, my love. I appreciate it. And I'm so happy for you. And I'm so happy your little boy came through when he was meant to and healthily. So it's so beautiful. But thank you so much. And yeah, thanks to everybody for tuning in. I hope this was inspiring. And I think it also really does show, like, you know, the slow and steady, the perfection does not equal pregnancy. And just, you got into this rhythm of maybe, I mean, from the outside, I could say this, maybe it resonates, but like trusting the timing of your life almost, you know?
Yep. It's a big
and you nourishing you. Oh my God. It's so hard though, right? We want to just have it on the timeline we want it. And you know.
Yeah. And once we let that go, then then you give it space to come in when it's ready.
That's it. Oh, I love it. Okay. Well, thank you so much. And I really appreciate you taking time out of your busy life to come here and inspire all these other women that are, you know, still on the journey, but hopefully to the other side soon, right?
Yes, hopefully.
All right. Thank you all so much. Thank you, Natalie. And yeah, I'll see you guys soon. Thank you so much.